Samuel Horowitz says, I wish you well to teach me how to remote view. It would be a dream of mine if you could. Frankly, I don't know how to teach you how to remote view. I know a bunch of remote viewers, but and I know the basic idea is that you can sit back and get yourself very cool and blank, and then the first thing that comes to your mind. I mean, I was in a Joe Dispenza event where there were 700 people there, and he said, "We're going to see how good you are at kind of remote viewing, I guess is what he said." And he had a little box, maybe something like about this size, a little box like that, and he had it up in front, and he says, "So I want you to tell the person next to you what you think is in the box." And I just, boom, and the first thing that came to my mind was it's a four-legged creature, it's a little animal. And then he asked everybody in this room, raise your hand if you thought it was, and he opened the box and it was a little model of a little cow or something. And he says, raise your hand if you thought this. And I was the only one that raised my hand. And so I know that you can catch that kind of stuff, and you probably become more sensitive to that when you go through things like I've done, like the Monroe Institute 5 different times, and so. But I can't teach you how to do it. There's good guys who can teach you how to do that. I mean, talk to Angela Ford. Angela Ford teaches people how to remote view. She's great. She's a great woman. Bernard McIntosh says, this is a long one, what is behind the interest in Antarctica a few years back? Well, people are still interested in it. It seemed like a lot of prominent personalities were going down there, especially ones... the matter may now be trivial by today's standards. I don't think so. As a matter of fact, I think that from what I can tell, is it's still bubbling up, and there's stuff that's down there that's really significant. And it may be central in some, linked way to a lot of the kind of strange stuff that's going on in the world today. And I just don't know. Cliff High used to have a bunch of interesting things. He thinks that they're onto some alien technology down there that is energy technology that's based upon, and the central part of it is silver, and therefore the market for silver is going to go up. And there's clearly a whole lot of contractors that have a lot of space down there, and there's a lot of stuff going on. There are other reports about they've unearthed or kind of an alien city down there. Shoot, they're supposed to be the Nazis are down there with their submarines too. I don't know. I really don't know. Anne-Marie Retzloff. How many remote viewers are selected and by whom? How many have been killed by whomever the perceived enemy was at the time? Are they reborn with a higher purpose because of this uninformed struggle between sides of good and evil? Are the bad guy programs completely wiped out? What happens when you can see or feel things and use your voice to back it up? Asking for a friend. Well, first of all, back with the program, when the program was going, early with the CIA, I mean, they were looking for people that had within the government, after Ingo Swann and Pat Price and a couple of these guys who were not, I don't know about Price, but I know Ingo wasn't with the government. And then they started looking for people, and the story goes that they were looking for people. One of the things they're looking for people that came out of Vietnam who had this intuitive sense, who were ground soldiers, Marines, or Army infantry guys who just had a sense that something was up ahead and that they would stop. They would walk point in a formation with a line of soldiers behind them, and they'd be the guys out in front, and they would sense. And so they had this intuitive kind of psychic sense, and so they looked for people like that, and they would put them into the system. I I should ask my friend Angela Ford, because I can't remember how they found her, but she had been psychic from her youth, but they found her. So I really don't know how they find them. I've never heard of any been killed by the enemy. I've certainly heard of situations where they were sent to go look into other kind of enemy situations, and somebody, maybe it was Penny Kelly, once told me that she found herself in some place one time, and suddenly the people all looked up and looked that way, and they knew that she was there, and she just backed out and said, no, I forgot, I made a mistake, never coming back. And so I don't know how that stuff works. I mean, there's a whole kind of layers of weirdness that goes on out there, and so I don't know anything about how you're reborn, and are the good guys, and who are the good guys and bad guys. It's hard to know for sure, because different people play different roles in this whole process, and sometimes there are what we think are bad people who are in the game to be the foil, to give us something to react against and give us a chance to make better decisions and to rise to the occasion. If there were no bad people, so-called bad people, we'd all sit around and have a good time, and we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't make any progress. And so it's this tension between the problems and the issues that we've got to deal with that are the thing that are fundamental and central to this whole process. Ken Maurer says, I just listened to your postscript interview with Robert David Steele, and it surprised me that he's still following QAnon, and also David Wilcock is a still believer. I thought everything the Q was predicting about elections and everything has been wrong. Am I not getting correct information about Q? Well, you might be right. Who was it? James? No. Who's the other guy in Japan? Corbett. Is it James Corbett? Anyway, the Corbett Report. He did a really interesting thing a couple of weeks ago on the whole savior component of the kind of the psyche of human beings, and that all of our stories all have a savior of one sort that comes in and saves the day. The stories that end well, kind of, and that's an integral part of kind of the psyche of humans. They're always looking for somebody that's going to get them out of this thing. The unsaid aspect of that, I presume, is that it's not somebody else who's going to get you out of this thing. It's you are going to get you out of it because of the way you see yourself and think, and some of the stuff that we talked about earlier. But his point, and so he went through the whole Q thing and showed all these places where Q said something and it never happened and it was wrong. And I frankly came away from that saying, my first response was, God, that's the most significant psyop I've ever seen. That is impressive. In fact, Q was just an effort by whoever, the other guys, to kind of keep everybody tamped down and keep the Trumpites from arising, if you will. Then it was really, really impressive, because that was a very sophisticated thing. But it certainly seems to have been effective, because it kept everybody hoping and leaning forward and feeling, oh yeah, it's coming, here it comes. So I really don't know. I've got a number of friends who really thought that the Q thing was real, and I admit to you that I spent a lot of time looking at Q stuff and being impressed by the similarities and the coincidence and the other kind of things that happen. But that's the nature of an intel operation. Is that, you feed people the truth and the truth and the truth, and you get them convinced, and then you walk them off the edge because they trust you. You could say that about people who channeling and other stuff as well. So I don't know. You're probably going to have to, you're probably going to have to wait a year and look back and say, was that true or not? And the other issue that I was just thinking about was the fact that, as I said earlier, I mean, there seems to be that there's these kind of dueling supercomputers that are underneath all of this kind of thing. And so you could have had some trend line that you were running down and then have the other guy kind of come up with a new idea, and it drives you off the tracks. And so then it doesn't work. So I don't know. There's all I can tell you is there's a whole lot of interest in trying to control the narrative here. This is the kind of like the biggest thing on the planet that ever happened in terms of trying to do large scale control and capture the narrative to be able to control in long term. Just you don't know where you go and what you think and how your life. I mean, this is a really, really big deal.